Brandon, tell me about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, FTW. But I was raised up here all my life. I moved up here about 3 months after I was born. My biological father was military. Met my mom up here. And
What was home life like for you?
the first few years were tumultuous. I maybe have one or two good memories my first 5 years. The best memory was the day that my mom left my father, But then after that, the man who raised me, who adopted me and gave me my name and my identity, taught me what it was like to have a father, to have a man. He came into the picture and my home life became significantly better.
Nice.
Significantly.
Good to hear. Any brothers or sisters along the way?
So I have I'm a younger brother, same mother, same father, and then I have 3 older sisters. And my 3 older sisters come by way of my father. That's the man who raised me, Kevin, and then there's my brother. My brother was a junior before, so he took on the role of a junior, so he completely changed his name, and me just the last name, but completely the identity changed, and destiny.
Gotcha. So, what part of Washington did you guys end up in?
So I grew up in Lakewood, Steilacoom, Washington, kind of right before Steilacoom Park area. Lakewood is known for cops most times, but I grew up in the good area, if you will. A lot of, I went to the same elementary, middle school, and high school as everyone, and it was predominantly a military school. We had Joint Base Lewis McChord, or Fort Lewis, and McChord Air Force Base back then. So,
what was your thing in high school? What were you doing?
Sports and girls.
Yeah. Sounds pretty normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the popular guy, I guess, if you will. Not that I asked for or wanted it. I've always been the outgoing one. Played sports all my life since 5 years old. Soccer was my main sport. 5'8", I was actually a goalie, and it did all right. Would have played in college, but Central Washington, that's where I went to college, didn't have one. So it was just scholastics. But second choir, was in the #1 mixed choir in the nation. So got to travel around DC and San Francisco and Utah. So pretty cool. Very active in high school.
That's awesome. And then after high school, you went to Central?
Yeah, I went to Central Washington. Didn't finish. Went for a good 3 years. College, your first taste of life outside of the home life, just far enough, but not too far. Got in with a group of guys, and we started throwing a lot of parties out there at the Elks Club, 1 to 2,000 people. A couple buddies of mine, their younger brother won a Grammy writing a song for Nicki Minaj and Rihanna, and so just a bunch of us guys. I'm half white, half black, and so it was cool to be around other black males where we were in a setting where Ellensburg isn't known to be the most diverse place, if you will, but it was accepting for what it is, and it allowed us to really spread our wings a little bit in our entrepreneurial roots.
Yeah, I'm curious, were you guys starting, was it like a business kind of,
It was a business, if you will. We were doing shows, parties once a month at Elks Club. We were also doing production. A couple of my buddies, they rapped and they do Bumper Shoot every year, the physics. I was around Macklemore when it was Ben, before he was the guy that we know today. So just a bunch of us in the early years before we went our separate directions.
Gotcha. And then after that, kind of, I guess it ends at some point.
Yeah, well, selling drugs kind of got in the way.
Okay. Well, and so let's talk about that a little bit. In that culture, if you will, did that start happening?
Yeah, I've always been known to be the guy to go to bring people together. I'm a people person, and so with throwing parties comes alcohol, comes cocaine, comes college life, and at first I was going to school for philosophy until I realized that you can't make any money with that. And so, with the background of my family, Joint Base Lewis McCord, there's a Waller Hall, which is named after Calvin A.H. Waller. He's a 3-star general in the Gulf War. It's an uncle of mine. My mom's brother was a colonel in the Air Force, and my father was a captain in the Department of Corrections. And so that was kind of the realm that I was kind of tinkering in, and I wanted to be a profiler in the FBI. Always liked the minds of serial killers, if you will. We're in Washington.
It's fascinating.
Absolutely,
Fascinating.
it really is, and I always thought that someone like Stephen King was a serial killer in his own right, but just did all his stuff in his books.
His fantasy.
Exactly. So, but selling cocaine kind of got in the way, and luckily I had a friend who gave me a call and said your time was up, and I got out of there just in time and switched gears and actually had an opportunity to work out at McNeil Island because of my father, through the Department of Social Health Services with Level 3 sexually violent predators as a residential rehabilitation counselor. So I did that for several years.
Wow. Oh wow! I mean, it's a big jump from A to B right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been known to do the extremes.
Tell me about that experience.
It was quite the experience. It was one that I was good at. That wasn't until I had my first child. Being in that world, I was able to do it very non-biased and to keep it professional until I had a child, and then things really just shifted gears, and I couldn't professionally do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't. I kind of understand that. I have 2 little girls, and when you have kids, it's like, and you think of them being harmed. Yeah, your perspective shifts a lot.
Everything.
And
you don't realize how radically it does.
Yeah. And you're like, I would do anything to protect these kids. And then you're face to face with people who, well, you moved on from there, let's say.
Sure did.
Good decision. Sounds
Thank
like.
you. Thank you.
Until where
I went to the Art Institute in Seattle and started doing, taking their program there for audio production, live sound, audio engineering. And I did that for about a year.
And you're married, have a kid, or just a kid?
Not married, but with the mother of my children, have a child. My son Xavier was born in September 16th, 2009. He came 2 months premature, and he was just ready for the world. And then I had a daughter, Genesis. Genesis was born February 22nd, 2012.
Nice.
So, life happened real fast. And, the mother, I tell you what, if it wasn't for the job working with Department of Social Health Services, I would never have met their mother. And that was the best thing that came out of that world. And we had 10 years together and 2 beautiful children. And she's doing phenomenal now. I love her to death. And, kids are doing great.
Nice. So you're at the Art Institute. And what's that experience like?
That was very cool, because of my love of production and all things music. I had an opportunity to go into the engineering side of things, but I did that for a year. And my responsibilities of a father kind of kicked in, and I kind of took a step back from that and started working.
Where did you end up working? What was it?
Back then I jumped around from working with the state. I did working on the island there, we called it a Special Commitment Center, and then I started working for the Department of Health Liquor Services back when that was still around.
Yeah, and there's liquor stores around.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess like Venmo is considered.
I mean, I guess by proxy.
Yeah, but not like there used to be.
But not a state-ran entity. Ballard.
Yeah. A little bit. Where were we?
So yeah, we're working for the state liquor control board. Did that for a while, and then I've had a pretty illustrious life, if you will. 2005, I was in an incident on I-90. We're heading out with a bunch of my friends, 2 vehicles. We were going to Hoop Fest back then, and the vehicle I was in, I was a passenger, and a road rage incident. 10 bullets were shot into the car that I was in, on the passenger side of me. It was found out this car was driving and didn't look in their blind side and ran us off the road. And so my driver got back onto the HOV lane, honked the horn, put his hands up naturally, and come to find out the driver of the other vehicle, a red Integra, had just gotten out of prison for an assault one, throwing a cleaver in someone's back. So he was known to have some anger issues. And so next thing I know, luckily I was laying in the vehicle perfectly the way that I was on a road trip, kind of kicked back. All 10 bullets hit the car, 2 bullets just nearly missed my head. Somehow a bullet passed through me somehow and hit my driver. It missed me, and so that was that. In 2006, my girlfriend then and I were in 2 complete totaled car accidents. Two cars completely totaled. One in the morning and then the second one that evening. 100 yards from the entrance to Tacoma General, getting checked out from the first one. They literally just rolled the gurney out to us. And then I was in a pretty bad car accident in 2010. And then in 2017, I was in an incident where a police officer put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger. Grazed my head. As the newspaper article says, the bullet passed through where you'd expect one's head to be. And so I've had a lot of incidences where pain was involved, pain medication, addiction issues, and prison, if you will.
They're related.
Hand in hand, yes, but never any drug charges or anything like that.
Okay.
Wrong places at the wrong time.
I'm really curious about the incident with the police officer who pulled the trigger.
Yeah, it was 9/11, 2017, 3 hours before my daughter's first day of kindergarten. And the fucked up situation is my son's first day of kindergarten. I was in an incident where I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I was with a guy who committed a robbery, and I got an assault too as an accomplice, and he did a year. And it's weird going from one side of things to the other. But with that year, when I got out of prison, I had to go back to county to clean up some stuff, and I managed to talk the judge into letting me out for 48 hours for a furlough to go to my son's first day of kindergarten. And then I went back for 5 more weeks and everything was cleaned up. So being free and away from all that, nothing was going to stop me from going to my daughter's first day of kindergarten, except for, again, being with the wrong crowd. You know, the way your life can really change by the people you hang out with, and the choices, the consequences, cause and effect. It's a big thing. It's real.
It's real, man.
You know, and my family, my parents, bless their souls, they did their best to make sure they put us in the right positions in life to make the right choices, and but they also gave us enough rope, and I chose to really swing with mine. And so I said 3 hours before my daughter's first day of kindergarten, I'm in a situation where I find out later after the fact that a woman whose children were taken by CPS was approached by some officers who were working a case and used her child as leverage in that case, and her not really knowing anything used me as a scapegoat. I was an easy scapegoat in the situation, and told, I guess, the officers that I would have a gun in my trunk. Well, I didn't have a gun in my trunk, and we left her house about 4:30, 4:45 that morning, and drove a few blocks going to the casino. She had asked me if I'd take her to the casino, and which I obliged, and when we left her house, an officer pulled off from the curb at the same time, drove a couple blocks. I had seen him, and he followed me, and so I decided to pull onto the same block as Marysville, Washington. So I'm in Alder and Grove on the same block as the police station, and pull into a driveway and get out my vehicle. The starter was out in the vehicle that I was in, so I left it running, and the officer pulled up in the curb and got out his vehicle and asked me what I was doing, and we kind of went back and forth. I asked him if I was being detained and things like that, and I had been pulled over 13 times that summer. It was a summer that was pretty rough for me. The mother of my children and my brother, if you will, the godfather to my children, best friend growing up, they had an affair, which really wrecked me.
Put it mildly.
Yeah, it tore me apart. And so with past traumas, trust issues, it really did a number on me. And so I did my best to keep it together, you know, and I was just looking for anything to grasp onto. And so I found myself in this situation. And for whatever reason, 13 times I was pulled over that summer, 13 times I was released, so I thought this was just another run-of-the-month type of situations. I gave the officer my information, and it came back on his radio that everything was clear, no warrants, no nothing, and so I thought this was number 14, until another officer pulled up, and this was different. And we're back at my vehicle, and he's looking at my vehicle, and my vehicle is clean. Nothing in there. I had been to prison. I was a felon. You know, I knew better. He's looking at my vehicle with his flashlight. Next thing I know, the officer asked me when was the last time I had smoked heroin. I was a heroin addict at the time. At that moment, I wasn't. I promised my daughter I'd be at school for her first day, and so I was clean that day. But I looked at the officer and I said, that was a pretty specific question. I don't smoke heroin. You know, I don't know why you're asking that. I'm a writer. I always wrote poetry, essays, thoughts, just whatever. And so I had a notepad, and a pen, fully intact pen in my center console, to which he said was drug paraphernalia. What I didn't know then, that I found out after the fact, was that he needed probable cause to arrest me because he was told I would have a gun in my trunk for whatever reason. But he didn't take into account that a father had promised his daughter hours prior to that he'd be at her first day of kindergarten. Well, needless to say, I didn't make it to my daughter's first day of kindergarten, nor her first, second, third, fourth, or fifth grade. It wasn't until 6th grade that I made it to her first day. You see, the officer tried to arrest me, and I wasn't going for it.
Because in your mind, it was a block for your daughter.
By any means necessary.
He got in between you and your daughter.
By any means necessary. The bad thing, and I guess the thing I've learned in life, is 5 days prior to this incident, the mother of my children, she had told me to calm down. I was running amok. I was angry, hurt, sad, bitter, really at myself for allowing all the things that I've allowed. And she told me, you're going to end up back in prison if you don't watch out. And for whatever reason, in that moment, I told her I'd rather die by the hands of the officers, by the hands of the police, than to ever go back to prison. And I'd be damned if 5 days later that same exact incident wasn't playing out. You know, these words that we speak, for the good or the bad, we really do manifest our destinies, and we really do speak our lives into existence. And I've learned that the hard way. And
so you guys got in a tussle, some kind of altercation, and he put a gun to your head and pulled the trigger.
So I got into the vehicle, and I hit reverse, and I'm reversing in my vehicle, and I'm looking over my right shoulder, and I hear this voice that says, watch out. Where it came from, what the voice was, I'm not sure, but it caused me to look real quick. And when I looked, I took my eyes off the rear view, which caused me to hit the officer's vehicle that was behind me. I hit his vehicle, the gun goes forward and goes off. And as the newspaper article says, like I said, the bullet passed through where you'd expect one said to be. The bullet went off, blast, good scar on the top of my head now. And the officer fell off my vehicle, and I hit his vehicle. His gun fell off into my car. I hit another vehicle, a mailbox. My vehicle stalls out. He breaks his hand, his arm, contusion in his leg. And next thing I know, my vehicle stalls out, and there's a female officer telling me to get on the ground, and she pulls the trigger. And it's a taser, luckily. She tases me, tells me to get on the ground. She tases me again. The second time she tases me so long that, you hear these stories, and it's funny. I just read a story just yesterday. The exact same situation as mine, this woman describes. But the lady, she tased me so long, my body, I feel this detachment. And those tasers, I respect them. Next thing I know, I'm floating above, if you will, the scene of the crime. I see the officer on the ground. I see myself on the ground. I see the girl running down the street. I don't know when she got out the vehicle. There's lights everywhere, pandemonium. It was chaos, but it was surreal and, for lack of a better term, beautiful, peaceful, quiet. I remember it was very quiet, like being in the snow, in the forest, just that very deafening quiet. And the same voice that said "watch out," I remember saying everything was going to be all right. And it said everything's going to be all right, to which I acknowledged it, and I remember shaking my head in acknowledgement and a single tear going down my eyes. And she must have released the taser at that point, because now I'm going to reverse real fast. And my memory, if it serves correct, I remember in my peripheral just various scenes of my life going by, flashes, and next thing you know, I'm behind the wheel and I'm on the ground as fast as I can. And there I am laying there staring at the officer, and we're looking at each other with this look that kind of sealed our fates, as if like, how the fuck did we ever get here? And needless to say, I ended up getting, though they canvassed the scene for 16 hours, they found no gun. They never tested me for any drugs, and no drug tests, nothing whatsoever in the hospital. I got 5 years in the prison for assault on a law enforcement officer with a deadly weapon. They gave me an exceptional sentence. I went to my arraignment with that charge, and they never gave me any kind of a deal, nothing. I signed for the same deal 6 months later and went to prison for 5 years.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Some would say unfair, but it wasn't until July 13th, 2021 that I took my children by the scene of the crime for the first time. I was released New Year's Eve 2020 going into 2021, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of COVID, it was life as I knew it was never going to be the same.
Yeah, that's probably an incredibly strange, surreal time to get out into the world again.
Twilight Zone, man.
Yeah, there you go.
I was just watching all this on TV. I mean, I have notebooks where I was writing down the death toll, the numbers. I mean, that's all we had to do. I was working for the Department of Natural Resources, so I was able to go out and fight fires and things like that. I did a lot in prison to change my life. I really, the Department of Corrections, if you want to change your life, there's many programs that are offered to do so.
You say it was a turning point for you?
Absolutely, 100%. And I knew it was when I took him by the scene of the crime, I told them the story as I remember it. I read him the article. I explained my drug issues, homelessness, and everything I did in prison. And my 11-year-old son, astute as he was and aware, looked at me and said, "So, Dad, you mean prison was a good thing for you?" And I don't know what the long-term residual effects will be, but
what does that bring up?
I just knew in that moment that my son would never judge me.
Yeah, that feels good. And that's deep.
Absolutely. I was forgiven.
Profound.
Which means I could forgive myself and start that process.
Healing.
Absolutely. And that's where redemption begins. So.
Well, I'm curious about your current situation, Brandon.
I tell you what, there was a moment in prison when I was laying in my bunk and I said, I remember telling my cellie, if you will, I'd rather be cold, tired, hungry, broke, with nothing and nowhere to go, homeless, alone, than to be in this bunk right now. And I'd be damned if, again, I didn't get exactly what I asked for. You know, there's times out here when I'm bitter, angry, hurt, tired, in a lot of pain, and not doing so good, that I remember that moment, and my perspective allows me to believe that I'm where my higher power chooses me to be right now, because I easily probably should, could, or maybe by proxy would be in prison for a third time. I've been given a lot of grace, and I'm doing the best that I can right now. I have a story, I have a crazy story, one that I'm still working on. But this is a process right here that I think helps begin that journey.
Good. Well, over there you said you used to live up north a little bit. Would you say 2 months ago or 2 years ago?
Just 2 years ago. I was living on 80th and 30th on the corner, right there in on Crown Hill.
Like an apartment?
In a house.
In a house?
Yeah, I was renting a house with my girlfriend at the time. My children had a home to visit. My children live in Lake Stevens right now. That's where they've always lived. And first year out of prison was a pretty cool year. If I could ever have a Groundhog's year, it would be 2021. It was pretty cool, man. Like I said, I got out during COVID. I never before, I think in history, could a felon get out and be on an even playing field with the rest of the world.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly rare.
Yeah,
like
it was
a one-off.
It was a gift.
Yeah, that's a good word for
And
it.
it was an opportunity. One that I believe I seized, but one that I just wasn't ready for. And I have struggled with that over the last 2 years being out here. But it's one that that healing process has begun. And I'm starting to work my way up out of these current situations.
One last question I'd like to wrap things up with. Brandon, is there anything that you'd want to say to the people of Seattle?
You know, I was raised in Lakewood, Washington. Lived in Snohomish County in Lake Stevens for 10 years. My father went to school with Jimi Hendrix at Garfield. My son was born in Swedish. When I had a choice where to move to and live when I got out of prison, it was this area that I chose. It was Seattle. I've always had great memories and good times in Seattle. Seattle, you've been, if you will, my security blanket in this time of need for growth, redemption, and understanding of self. And you've put up with a lot, and I appreciate the grace that you've given me. And I would like to say thank you 1,000 times over.
Right on, man. It's good to hear your voice. Thanks for sharing part of your story.
Absolutely.
We'll get to part 2 when you're ready.
Thank you.
Man, you over for a hug, dude? Thanks
Absolutely.
so much, dude. Yeah, man. All the best in the healing.
Thank you.
It's a journey.
It is, man.
You got that little mic.